But at the end of the day, I basically lost $7,500. Every last penny that I put into that, or that I paid for the bike initially, I lost. Yo, buenos dias, que paso, you guys? John's Moto Garage. Welcome back to the channel. This is a tough video for me to make today. I don't really want to do this video. Ideally, I would just squash this memory, forget about it, and never think about it again. But while I love to celebrate my successes, I think it's equally important to learn from our mistakes. All right, where do we even begin? This is gonna start back in 2020. At the time, I was heavy into learning the wheelies and the stunt game here on John's Moto Garage, if you followed along back then. And I thought it'd be cool to buy a stunt bike.
We are jumping in the truck, Jackie and I. We're taking two of the kiddos, and we're gonna head to California. I'm picking up a new motorcycle.
And I ended up finding what I thought was the perfect stunt bike. Dragged Jackie, convinced her to tag along with me. Her and I and one of the kids, we drove out to California, overnighter. Picked up this bike. It was a 2013 Kawasaki ZX636 stunt bike. It had the tank, had the cage, had the handbrake, had custom radiator, pretty much all the upgrades. It was fully built, ready to stunt.
Can we cut that out? Can you edit that out? No.
Hey, we'll
So I got this bike, came back to Arizona all stoked, thinking that here we are, let's get back into the, get into the stunt game. Well, almost immediately after getting the bike home, I started having issues with it. The biggest issues I had were, one, I kept losing pressure on the rear brake, and then number two, it had a handbrake, and so I had the dual calipers on the rear brake, and one of those calipers kept sticking, and so it would grind through the brake pads. So I went through like 2-3 sets of brake pads. Just a huge headache right off the bat trying to figure that out. But I did end up getting the bike kind of dialed into where it was working for me, and I was able to ride it. So about 6 months after getting the bike, I ended up traveling for work, and I was gone for 6 months. And during that 6 months, some rats, while the bike was in storage, decided to take up residence in the motorcycle and thought it'd be cool to chew through the wiring harness. So needless to say, when I got back, the bike was not in great condition. It wasn't running. Fast forward about a year after that, after the bike sat for about a year, finally I was transitioning out of the Harley wheelies and thought it would be cool still to have a solid stunt bike that I could mess around on and have fun. So after going through a bunch of people trying to find somebody who would be willing to mess with the bike, I finally found a local buddy here who said he would check it out. And so I dropped it off with him. So he did new chain, new sprocket, did oil, did grips, did tires, and basically got the thing all freshened up, ready to go. And then it came time to see if we could get the bike running. He replaced the wiring harness, did all this other work, and the bike would not start. Could not get this bike back up and running. And ended up having the bike for like a year and a half. It went from him and then to a buddy of his who had a similar bike, and they tried troubleshooting it and figuring it out, and neither of them could figure out how to get this thing back up and running. So here I am now, a year and a half later. I've dumped like 2,000 bucks into the bike for all these new parts, and I haven't even paid the dude for labor yet at this point, because he wanted to get it all running and stuff before he hit me with the labor number. And I had actually kind of forgotten about that bike, but he hit me up about a month ago. He's like, hey man, here's the update on the bike. I apologize, it's taken a long time, but we just cannot get this thing running. And so at that point I was like, dude, I think I'm just ready to get rid of it, you know. Long story short, I ended up selling the bike. He did some networking, found somebody who was willing to buy it as is, not running. And my thought at this point is I would just at minimum want to recoup what I dumped into all the parts. You know what I mean? Like making any money back on the motorcycle from what I paid for, I think at this point ain't gonna happen. But as long as I can recoup, you know, the 2,000 plus that I dumped in the parts and covered the dude for his labor. And so I ended up being able to do that at a minimum. But at the end of the day, I basically lost $7,500. Every last penny that I put into that, or that I paid for the bike initially, I lost. And so that's where the big learning experience is. Number one, I overpaid for that bike to begin with. But then number two, like I said, in that case, I would have been way better off just selling the bike as is. Yeah, I wouldn't have lost as much. I probably would have only lost like 5,000 bucks as opposed to freaking 7,500 bucks. So big learning experience, big loss. You know, over all the years that I bought and sold bikes, when I used to, before I did the channel and I was just buying and selling, I could always, you know, the most I'd ever lost was maybe a couple $100 on a deal. But for the most part, I was making money on these motorcycle deals. Once I bought bikes and started riding them myself and learning to wheelie them and stuff, that's different than buying and selling a bike just to make profit. Obviously, if you use it and abuse it and ride it, you can't expect to get all your money back for it. And with a stunt bike, where it's a pretty niche market, there's no guarantee either. But man, that's it hurts to lose that much money on a deal. Even 3 years later, it's still just like, dude, that sucks. And that's why I said didn't want to do this video, bro. Didn't want to do it, but live and learn. I guess that's what it comes down to. So let me know below, have you ever lost a bunch of money like that on a stupid purchase? Drop a comment below, let me know. Like and subscribe if you dig the channel. The support's always appreciated. We will catch you guys on the next one. Adios, nos vemos.